Good evening and welcome back to Whiteboard Wednesday. It's great to have you on board once again. Thank you as always for tuning in, because I always say that and I always will try to. I am grateful and thankful that you do take your time and tune in. Another week or so and the podcast on Saturday nights will no longer be on YouTube. Some are saying to me I should keep it. Well, we'll see. We'll do a trial and take it off for a little while, see how that goes. The numbers are going up on the podcast over on Spotify, and please go over there and follow it. Interestingly enough, go off a little bit before you read the back of this on me here. I was looking at something because I heard somewhere there was a rankings that you could rank where a podcast is in the feeds or whatever. Long story short. And so I looked into religious and spirituality and stuff like that. I can't stand when they put that in there because it's a different version. But anyways, and I see that Joyce Myers and Stephen Furtick's, and I'm like, wow, there are no King James podcasts on those lists. And with your help, I think if you'd go over, I'm not trying to pander or anything like that, but honestly, if you go over there, follow, subscribe, whatever you have to do, click a button on there or whatever, however you do it, and get us into that algorithm. We need to get the King James out there on every platform we can while we can, because I'm okay with it one day crashing, but take advantage of this while we can, but be prepared to hit the streets when it's time. With that, let's get into this. So for a while, I've been looking into physician and doctor, not to become one. I've studied it for a little bit, and I go back to it, come back to it, and then things happen, then I go a different direction. The Lord leads me a different direction to do another video or a different thing. So, but here I am finally at this physician and doctors. And I find this fascinating because in Matthew 9, verse 12, it actually says physicians, and it doesn't say doctor. And I wonder why that was. Or I should say, I want to know how that can be explained. We're going to read Matthew 9:12. You can see it up here, but I'm going to turn to the paper. For those of you who don't have a King James Version, if you can see it right there, you can read it right there, but I'm going to actually read it out loud. So if you have a King James Bible, and if you don't have your King James Bible, I implore you to get one, because you'll be absolutely amazed at how much you've been lied to when you go to the other versions. So tonight we're just going to be comparing Matthew with NIV is what we're going to be comparing it with. Just doing one Bible this evening. Matthew chapter 9 verse 12. But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. So we look at this, we see physician. Okay, yeah, need a doctor, physician, whatever. No, whatever. So that's the important thing to understand here. If you look at this, a physician, a doctor fixes things. You go to a doctor, he sets the leg, he sets your wrist, whatever it may be. Nobody's physically injured here, but someone's sick. But no one complained about being sick. Was there any vomiting or anything like that? No, it's sick from the world. It's sick with evil. That's where we're at. If you look up physician, the first definition you're going to see is a person trained in the art of healing. Jesus healed the sick. He healed the sick. If you look up the definition of doctor, the first thing you'll see is, as in theology, the Roman Catholic Church. Second definition, medical treatment. See the difference? Now you'll get down, I think it's like fourth or fifth, or to get like 9 different definitions. You get down there, then it's the medical arts of healing or something, healing arts or whatever it's called. Healing arts, which is interesting because healing arts is things like Reiki and things like that. Physician, a person trained in the art of healing. The King James uses words for a reason. There's no mistake here. None at all. Now let's read the NIV. This time I kept it open so we didn't waste any time on that. NIV 9 verse 12. On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." It is not the healthy. It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I want you to notice something there. Not only does it say, where is it? But the sick. Who need a doctor, but the sick. Really? Now someone will say, well, Stephen, the doctor came out later, and da-da-da. No, doctors a lot around. They could have used the word doctor before 1611. They could have used it. There's a reason why it was not used. And why physician was the correct translation. A person trained in the art of healing. Now, another thing I want you to see here, and we're not going to go too deep onto this one, but I think it's easy to understand, where it says, on hearing this, Jesus is not healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. So this one says sick, which is good. There are others that say well, who need to be whole. So that they that be whole. Whole. Why am I repeating this? As opposed to well. Because without Jesus, you are not whole. So I want to go back to doctors. So where do we find doctors in the Bible, the King James Bible? Go to Luke, please. I shall ask politely. Go to Luke chapter 2, 46, verse 46. Oh, I didn't hold my place on this particular time. But, So Luke chapter 2, 46. There are no errors in the King James Bible. There's so much obvious common sense once you read and really look at things. But nobody really points them out or explains simple little passages. They want to get into long diatribes, these long-winded situations, and all these explanations of such major things. But a lot of people ask the simple things. It's amazing how many times new Christians are asking simple things. You want to throw all this meat at them that they're not ready for, and you just don't explain the simple things that people question. They go, hey, how come it says this and not this? And you'll find many go, I don't know. But they can go into long conversations about the different dispensations and whether we should baptize or not baptize anymore. All the scriptures on that. I'm not saying that that's not important, but how do you explain the little things? Just the simple things. So Luke, chapter 2, verse 46. And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. I don't think he was at Johns Hopkins University. Pretty sure that's not where he was. No. He wasn't out at Santa Clara University. He wasn't at Berkeley. He wasn't at MIT. He wasn't at the NIH with Dr. Fauci. He was in the midst of doctors. They were people of what? In the theology, the Roman Catholic Church. Guys who were sitting around. Who were the Roman Catholic Church? We can make an argument for the Pharisees. All right, Luke chapter 5, verse 17. Luke chapter 5, verse 17 in your King James Bible. And if you have an NIV or any, you can definitely read it there, and you'll see some differences, my friend. And it came to pass on a certain day, as he was teaching, that there were Pharisees and doctors of the law sitting by, which were come out of every town of Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was present to heal them. Who healed them? Not the doctors that were there. It was Jesus. Couldn't get a better physician, could you? And it came to pass. So the Pharisees, and we just talked about that, and that's in Catholics right there, doctors of the law. How about that? Doctors of the law. And the power of the Lord was present to heal them. There's a difference between the physician and the doctor. They're not the same. We'll go to Acts 5:34. I like to keep Whiteboard Wednesdays on the shorter side. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law. Doctor of the law. Had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. Doctors, theology, the law, physician, heal, the healer. And we can make this in there's numerous places in Luke 17, 8, 7, 5 that talks about, you can look at the word whole and how it changes in the other definitions in the other Bibles. Not every single one. I think NKJV 2 stays the same, but the other ones that change because they have to make sure they change it on you. You gotta slip a little in there. But there is a difference between the physician and the doctor. Overlooked. In my opinion, very overlooked. Do the study for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Open the King James Bible and go to these verses. Like I said, Luke 2:46, Luke 5:17, Acts 5:34, Luke 17:19 when it comes a whole, Luke 8:50, Luke 8:48, Luke 7:10, John 5:6. There's more, by the way. I didn't write them all down. These are just a few. So physician or doctor. And I wrote here again, Matthew 9:12. But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, they that be whole, I should have underlined that. Also, let's do it right now. They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. So if you are saved, you don't need a physician because you've already become saved. But you're all set. But they that are sick. They that are sick. Are you preaching to people that are already whole? Is your ministry basically founded on teaching things that some people already know? Now, am I saying that you can't teach to people that are not that are already saved? I'm not saying that at all. You go out to the streets like the Jews did, and rocking back and forth in the phylacteries, and just look at me, look what I'm doing. Do you actually do things? Are ye doers of the word? I know I'm getting a little off here. This evening, this is going to come off a little wrong, and I apologize. And because I almost missed an opportunity. Could have had a V8. I was waiting for my son. And something had happened. The police officers, they stopped the vehicle. And I might as well tell a little bit of the whole story, I guess. So they stopped the vehicle. It was a Mercedes. So it was an SUV. Out of the lights. I was sitting there reading. And while I was waiting for my son. And all of a sudden, cruisers came. I was like, I looked up, and I went to watch the cruisers, and all of a sudden the cruisers didn't keep going. I'm like, what just happened? I didn't hear a loud bang, and I'm like, is someone in the street? So I put my what I was reading, and I headed out kind of in that direction to see what was going on. But it was a vehicle, and they were talking to somebody. I'm like, oh, all right. So I don't know. So I came back and got into my truck. And then after a while, that vehicle came and parked, and a cruiser came and parked next to it on the right hand side of me. I'm like, okay, a little close here. I was just trying to be in a quiet little spot here while I waited for my son. And another cruiser had come after that, and they ended up arresting some woman. They had her handcuffed. And I'm thinking, I was just thinking about the world today, and I'm like, man, unbelievable. I'm like, another person getting arrested. I'm like, it's just sad. And then I'm like, oh, what are you gonna do? So I went back to reading, and I looked behind me. I'm like, what am I doing? I have Romans and John and Romans here. I have it right here. So I was like, what am I doing? So I grabbed it real quick. I got out of in the vehicle, went over to the woman officer because nowadays they have women. If it's a woman being pulled over, they have women officers on the scene for these things. So I asked her, "Hey, the woman you just arrested, could you give this to her?" And she said, "Yeah, no problem." I'm like, "Oh, great, thank you." But I almost missed an opportunity. How many times have you missed an opportunity? How many times have you said, I don't know, it's a little much? Really? It's not the right situations. You don't want to sit down with the publicans and the the tax collectors and the sinners. You don't want to sit down with them. It's not the whole that need a physician. Are you not reaching out for them? You can have your conversations with those who are whole and well. That's not a problem. But are we forgetting them? She's a Mercedes. How sick could she be? Very sick indeed. Very sick. She's of the world. And maybe in that moment that she's broken, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. But the point is, don't miss those opportunities. Don't walk away. Are you going to be doers of the word? Or are you just going to sit back and go, that's for somebody else? Guys, obviously I'm talking in this particular case mostly to men. Guys, what are you doing? That is an opportunity that you have been called to do. Well, I appreciate you tuning in tonight. And I don't know when did that story, but physician and doctor. There's a reason why doctor is not used. Physician. Because the physician is the healer, not the doctor. And with that, I said thank you very much. God bless. And I will make sure you tune in on Saturday. I got to learn to plug these things, I guess, to plug the podcast. Make sure you tune in on Saturday. I believe it's the last one. I'm going to look at the date here. It's the last one we'll do on YouTube, and then we're going to flip over and keep it on Rumble and Spotify and see where we go from there. Again, thank you. God bless, and have a great evening.